Welcome to the channel. If you're the kind of person who doesn't just want to drive, but wants to understand what's happening under the hood, if you care about how engines actually make power, you're in exactly the right spot. Today, we're tackling one of the most fundamental debates in the performance world: supercharger versus turbocharger. This isn't just about bolting on parts, it's about defining the very soul of your car. The choice you make will impact your build, your driving style, and your budget in profound ways. It's the difference between instant, raw, linear power and a building wave of force that hits like a tidal wave. So, let's get into it. First, a quick foundation. At its core, your internal combustion engine is just a sophisticated air pump. On the intake stroke, a piston moves down, creating a vacuum that pulls in a mixture of air and fuel. A naturally aspirated engine relies solely on atmospheric pressure to fill that cylinder. It can only ever inhale a volume of air equal to its displacement, a concept called volumetric efficiency. And frankly, it's never 100% efficient. But what if we could cheat? More air plus a corresponding amount of more fuel equals a much bigger boom, a more powerful combustion event. That's the entire game. This is where forced induction comes in. Instead of letting the engine sip air, we use a compressor to physically cram a denser charge of air into the cylinders, pushing past that 100% volumetric efficiency barrier. Both superchargers and turbochargers do this, but their methods are night and day. Superchargers are mechanically driven, connected directly to the engine's crankshaft by a belt or gear. Turbos are ingeniously powered by recycling waste energy from the engine's exhaust stream. Same goal, totally different vibe. Let's dive into the supercharger. Think of it as brute force. Because it's bolted to the crank with a belt, its speed is directly tied to engine RPM. The moment the engine turns, the supercharger turns. This means boost is basically instant. There is no lag. You so much as breathe on the throttle pedal, and the car answers immediately. This creates a beautifully linear and predictable power curve. The torque is there right off idle, it's strong in the mid-range, and it pulls consistently to redline. It feels like you just install a much bigger engine. There are three main types. First, the classic roots blower, the one you see sticking out of a hot rod's hood. It moves air in big gulps, great for low RPM torque but less efficient at high speeds. Then there's the twin screw, which is like a more advanced version. It internally compresses the air between two meshing screws, making it more efficient across the RPM range. Finally, the centrifugal supercharger. It looks and acts like the compressor side of a turbo. It uses an impeller to sling air outwards at high speed, and its boost builds exponentially with RPM. It's quiet at low speeds and screams at the top end. But there are trade-offs. The biggest is parasitic loss. It takes power to make power. The supercharger is a load on the crankshaft, robbing some horsepower just to spin itself, sometimes up to 20% of the total power made. Also, those belts and tensioners are wear items. A slipped, misaligned, or snapped belt means an instant loss of all boost. Reliability, however, is generally very solid. The systems are self-contained and mechanically simpler than turbos. As long as your belt, tensioner, and pulley alignment are dialed in and you manage the heat, they are incredibly robust. Now, let's talk turbochargers. If superchargers are brute force, turbos are elegant efficiency. They use the hot, high-pressure exhaust gas that's normally just wasted out the tailpipe. This exhaust flow spins a turbine wheel, which is connected by a shaft to a compressor wheel on the intake side. It's essentially free power with minimal parasitic loss. This is why, pound for pound of boost, a turbo is generally more efficient and can produce more horsepower than a supercharger. The experience is different. Off boost, at low RPM, the car feels calm, almost like stock. But as the engine produces more exhaust gas, the turbine spins faster and faster. This is the spool. Then you hit the boost threshold and a massive surge of power comes on. This is the infamous turbo lag, followed by the addictive kick. Modern technology has done wonders to minimize that lag. Twin scroll housings separate exhaust pulses from paired cylinders, letting the turbine spin up more quickly. Ball bearing center sections reduce friction, allowing the shaft to spin with less effort. And variable geometry turbos, or VGTs, can actually change the angle of vanes inside the turbine housing, acting like a small, quick spooling turbo at low RPM and a large, high-flowing turbo at high RPM. The setups are also versatile. A big single turbo is simpler and can deliver monstrous top-end power, perfect for drag racing. A twin turbo setup, often used on V engines, uses two smaller turbos that spool up faster, providing a broader, more responsive power curve. And a sequential setup uses a small turbo for low-end response, then adds a larger turbo for the top-end rush. With a turbo, control is king. Because it's self-powering, it could theoretically boost itself to destruction. So you need a wastegate to divert excess exhaust gas away from the turbine, capping the boost at a safe level. You use electronic boost control solenoids to precisely manage that wastegate. And all of this absolutely requires a knowledgeable tuner who can dial in the fuel and timing maps on the ECU to create a safe, reliable, and powerful setup. For both systems, heat management is life. The act of compressing air makes it hot. This is basic physics. Hot air is less dense, meaning less oxygen, and it dramatically increases the risk of engine knock or detonation. This is why an efficient intercooler, either air-to-air or air-to-water, is not optional, it's mandatory. Clean, well-routed ducting is critical. For turbos, this is even more crucial. The turbo itself is heated by 1500 degree exhaust gases. This heat soaks the entire engine bay. You have to manage exhaust gas temperatures, EGTs. Watch for high back pressure in the exhaust manifold and use heat shielding to protect vital components. A turbo system's reliability is directly tied to how well you manage its extreme temperatures. So let's talk about what really matters, the power curve, not just the peak number. A dyno sheet tells a story. The supercharger's curve is typically a straight rising line of torque. It's predictable. This makes it fantastic for modulating the throttle mid-corner on a road course. You know exactly what you're going to get, lap after consistent lap. The turbo's curve often looks like a mountain. The torque comes on in a huge, dramatic spike. This is exhilarating and amazing for highway pulls and chasing big dyno numbers. But on a track, that sudden hit can overwhelm the tires and upset the car's balance if you're not prepared for it. Managing that boost for traction and keeping temperatures in check becomes part of the driving challenge. So, which one is right for you? Let's break it down by use case. For a daily driver, it's a toss-up. A mild, positive displacement supercharger kit gives you that instant response for zipping through traffic. It feels natural and effortless. But a modern, small, quick spool-in turbo offers quiet efficiency for commuting, with a fun kick when you need to merge or overtake. It's the best of both worlds for many. For track days and road courses, the supercharger's linear power delivery is often favored for its predictability and ease of control. However, a well-sorted twin-scroll or ball-bearing turbo setup can be just as effective, offering a broader power band and better efficiency on long straights. It just requires a bit more finesse from the driver. For drag racing and chasing maximum horsepower, the turbo is the undisputed king. Its efficiency at high RPM and high boost is unmatched. You can use advanced boost control strategies to launch soft to maintain traction, then ramp in an insane amount of power as you go down the track. Ultimately, there is no single better option. It's about what's better for Don't get fixated on peak horsepower numbers. Look at the dyno graphs. Think about where and how you drive. Do you want that instant, always-on grunt, or do you prefer the Jekyll and Hyde personality of a turbo? The bottom line is this. Pick the power curve that best complements your car, your goals, and your driving style.